My name is Herb, and I'm an alcoholic, and welcome to our Big Book 12-Step workshop. Join me in prayer for an open mind and heart. God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my brokenness, the 12 steps in you, for an open mind and a new experience of myself, my brokenness, the 12 steps, and especially you. Please join me in the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. So we've entered solidly now into the water. That first 3 steps, we saw the water and we walked into it and we got ankle deep. A metaphor. We got ankle deep. We're now up to our knees because we're into step 4 inventory, and it's the real work. It's really what separates, well, let me put it in a positive sense. It's really what evolves us from childhood to adulthood. Bill says that in the 12 and 12 in step 6 and 7, the conclusion to this second stage of the rocket launch. Steps 6 and 7. Steps 4 and 5 are the beginning of the stage, the second stage, where we really do some deep dive into the things in us that block us from the light that is in us. We've made a decision in step 2 and 3 that there is light, and that light is deep inside of me and is available to me to have a relationship with it. That's essentially the decisions that we made in steps 2 and 3. Whether you know it or feel it or have any certitude about it, it's not relevant. You made the decision, an act of your free will, and now you're going to act as if it's true. Because step 1 is the launching pad to desperation. Whether you're new or relatively long-term in the program, it doesn't make any difference. A visit to addiction, at least, is a trip down memory lane to sort of stimulate the reason we're in this whole thing anyway. And then to take a deep and experiential look at unmanageability and those bedevilments and self-centeredness. It's kind of like, that's a wake-up call for us right now. Addiction may be ancient history a year or two or a decade or two ago. But unmanageability, that's a current experience. At least that was my experience with it. It startled me at 10 years of sobriety. One of my good friends says that step 4 is actually step 1 in writing. It's brilliant. Step 1 is a experience of unmanageability, an experience of our former addiction or our current addiction. And it's mostly learning about the definitions and the descriptions of addiction and seeing the connection to our own personal history, and then really seeing deeply what Bill means in the big book by unmanageability and connecting to it in our current life, a daily life. My life today with a vital spiritual program is as unmanageable by me as it was before I ever came into the program. I'm totally convinced on that. And in fact, I get reminders on a daily basis where I kind of get bumping into the guardrails. I don't go over the cliffs anymore, but I do bang into the guardrails. And it's the experience of banging into the guardrails that Bill in the 12 and 12 in step 10 says, we're disturbed. When we have an emotion, a feeling, a consciousness, an awareness that something's not quite right, he puts it right on us in step 10 because we've already had the experience in step 4 of owning it. Because it's in writing now. This powerlessness that is described on page 52 and 62 is an existential experience on a daily basis. And that's why Bill suggests in the morning that we pray for guidance, and in the evening, we kind of take a look at how did we do. And in step 12, he suggests that we operate our life on principles. Those are the guardrails. Those are the guardrails that guide us, principles. My current principle du jour, working with my character defects du jour, is kindness. You have had a sufficient amount of exposure to me to know that I can, in fact, be kind of abrupt or rude. Or I call it direct, mostly. But I'm cutting myself some slack because sometimes it's just a lack of patience. And this year, 2020, I tried to have the lenses 2020 clear vision of loving kindness. That was a book that was given to me by a really good friend for really good reasons. I needed to read it. And this year, going forward, I'm going to narrow it down because I need to keep it really simple to remember it. 2021 is going to be only one lens. I'm going to really try to focus on what does kindness mean? Wow, did I get off on a tangent? But no, it's still relative to step 4. See, step 4 is in writing. Our resentments and our fear and our dishonesty, fight, flight, and freeze. And we've taken a deep look, beginning to take a deep look at the resentment inventory, that feeling of anger, sentire, that feeling of anger that we have repetitive, cyclical, for events that maybe happened yesterday, or maybe 10, 20, 40 years ago. And we're still, we've done a lot of work in therapy. We've done a lot of work in self-development and human psychology and therapy. We've done a lot of work in the 12-step, and we've done inventory before. Many people think, I've dealt with that. It's just a memory now. It's just a memory now. I've dealt with it. It's not really a current feeling, until they embrace it in the set-aside attitude. And they determine, yeah, it's a memory, but there's still some hint of mint. There's still a flavor of the anger. There's still some fire under the ashes. It's smoldering still. That's a nice analogy, actually, for resentment, smoldering. And so today I'd like to do some specific work. I would like to spend some time going deeply into column 3. I asked you last week to experiment with maybe 3 different worksheets on 3 different people. And rather than going ahead in the book or anything like that, I'd like to go line by line. And I'd like to address self-esteem. I think we'll probably do pride at the same time because they're kind of flip sides of the same coin.
Yeah, so tell me, Herb, how to proceed. What do you want to hear?
I want to hear thank you for asking. What's your resentment, the person or institution, and the first item, why are you angry?
Okay. So resentment at my dad in its simplest form, for not eating a cake that I made for him when I was, I don't know, very young, maybe 7, 8 years old.
Yeah. And you're still holding some negative energy about that.
Yeah. It came to mind. I was surprised it came up. Done 4 steps on it before, but yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so we're clear now. Dad, because he didn't play with me in the game of I made a cake and dads are supposed to eat it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So what did you write for self-esteem?
So, and I kept these really short. It
Good.
seemed like, yeah. So it just, my deep belief about who I am, it surprised me, but just that I'm dirty, unclean, because that was his reason for not eating it. He was kind of a clean freak.
Okay. So although that may be the truth in fact and in psychology, it's not what we're looking for here because it's never negative.
Okay.
It's never negative. So this is a great approach and exercise for us. So your dad and you are on a stage in your mind, going back in history to when you were 7 years old, and you're offering this cake to him. And what was your hope and expectation?
So I wrote for that one, others should see my dad treating me as if I'm lovable and cherished and wonderful.
So what you've done is really facilitate now this technique that I've attempted to explain, which is backdooring self-esteem. So what I want you to do now, because you went to Pride and you went to the stage and you went to the audience, how do you want your family to see your father treating you? And you said what?
Just adorable, lovable. Yeah.
Well, it's good. Why don't you read what you wrote, though?
What is, I wrote, others should see dad treating me as lovable.
You want to expand and stretch that a little bit? Get outrageous?
Just that he's crazy about me, that I'm,
nice.
Yeah.
That I'm the wonder child and I'm his princess and I'm his treasure.
Yeah.
Right? He would walk on glass for me. I mean, I'm pushing it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right. So now, this is the technique that I want people to see and to experience as we're going through it. Now, in the self-esteem, in the pride, change the vocabulary from others should see me to I am, and read exactly what you wrote, maybe with the stretch that we just gave it.
So I am the wonder child and completely loved and lovable.
And the little princess that he dotes on unconditionally. Yeah. You see what she did, what I facilitated here was she did this pride, which is a little easier to do because it's looking at the outside of what you want from other people to see him treating you. And then I converted it to an I am statement, and she cracked open, I think, the belief that you had at that age and still are holding the disappointment about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that help?
It does. So then do you circle back to self-esteem?
Then you circle back to self-esteem and you cross out the negative stuff that you had and you just put in what you just captured.
But what if that's not the deep belief?
But it is already. All right, but you know what? Rather than impose my view and insights, I want you to do it the way I'm describing it and to sit with it for a while. Just put, I am the beloved child. I am the special daughter. I am the center of his attention. Because you are angry because he didn't treat you that way. It probably means that you had some type of an unconscious belief that that's the way it should be.
Oh, now I'm following you. Okay. Okay. Now, yeah.
Yeah. It's that expression that tells me you get it. It's kind of like, now, the curtain parts, and I go, oh, that's it. Now,
so that I should have been, that was wrong. Got it.
That's it. Now, we're not going to go any further. We're going to stay with the self-esteem and the pride because everything else cascades down from that. When you do the ambition, security, all the rest of that, that will all pretty much unpack itself as you go through it. But I don't want to overwhelm us today. I want to keep it really simple, because when people break the code of self-esteem, and if they don't do that, if they go to the pride and backdoor it, perhaps they open it up like you just experienced it.
So is it almost like the question in my head is like, why couldn't he see that? That's why I'm angry, because that, why couldn't he see that?
Or maybe the different question, which is my favorite question: why isn't reality the way I want it to be?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which, as you can intuit, is a futile question.
Right.
It's very unhealthy. Reality is just what it is. My father is just who he is. My father reacted just who he was. I wanted it to be different.
Yeah.
But it's not. There's no judgment here. There's an observation. Reality is just what it is. And you see, what we do is we take it personally.
Mm-hmm. Herb, you know what's so perfect about that? And maybe this will help others, because it really is. And it's not a long story, but the man really had problems around cleanliness. He wouldn't even eat my mom's cooking when they got married for a long time. I mean, this was an illness for him.
Yeah. Well, and
you'll like, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll see more of that in the fourth column, where the truth is he was neurotic.
Yeah. And I know this, but it still feels right.
Help.
I hear where you're going though. That's No, that's
more
good.
Importantly, you see where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
Yeah. Thank you.
So when I resent my cousin Shelly for hating me just for being born, my self-esteem is I'm a darling, lovable cousin who is adored by all.
See, now what she did was she expanded it with some adjectives just to give it a little bit of a stretch. And go ahead. And what's your fear?
I'm bad and in the way, a nuisance.
And so, contrary to what I said in the sense of it's never negative, it can be negative in the fear inventory. As I mentioned in my instruction last week, the left-hand side where you're doing self-esteem is analytical in the head. It's a thought process. Where you cross over to the fear, it's in the heart and in the gut. It's an emotion, it's a feeling. So just be conscious of the place. A lot of times I have people put their hand on their chest and or on their gut if in fact they have difficulty kind of identifying what the feeling is, so that there's a sort of a embodiment experiment with trying to get a sense of the feeling. This is really true for men in contrast to women who have, it appears more access to their feelings. So go ahead. Pride, please.
Others should see Shelly treating me as her favorite, a playmate to protect and mentor.
And your fear would be?
She wants me dead.
Oh. See, and there's no right or wrong answer here, and that's why I want to really emphasize this. The way I did it is very dramatic, and it's fine. All right, it doesn't make any difference, because it's about your perceptions and your feelings, and there's no wrong answer here. There's only helpful answers, healthy answers, unhelpful answers, unhealthy answers. Something that pushes along your sort of realization of the shoulds, your beliefs about reality. If we keep that also in mind, that's a lot to keep in mind, but that the heart of this column 3 work is about beliefs, and we see the beliefs through the use of the word should. Because it's counterintuitive. It's not the way we're raised to think. It's not the way your current culture thinks, I'm confident, but it is a way to unpack the unconscious so that you get free of this negativity. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no, it's wonderful. Thank you.
I'm really out of my comfort zone.
Right.
A couple of reasons, because I don't talk politics in meetings, and I'm also afraid that people will judge me and not like me based on what I'm going to share.
Sure. And they will judge you. Yeah. That's who we are as human beings, right?
Gee, thanks. I feel a whole lot better now. Okay, so my big resentment is Donald Trump, and it's for his despicable lying behavior and the self-esteem. And I really struggled with this. I have no idea if this is quote unquote right or what.
Sure.
The self-esteem I wrote is, I am an honest person who lives in a good country with an honest leader. That's what I would hope for. And what is my fear? My fear is that our country is not so good. And maybe I am confused about the need for honesty, but I don't think so.
Well, see, there's no right or wrong answer here. What she expressed was her thoughts on the left-hand side, and that's based on her perceptions. And on the right-hand side, she expressed her feelings, and you could see that there was a reasonableness about that feeling, but a confirmation and a confidence in it. Thank you. Go ahead. Now, go ahead to pride, please.
Pride. Others should see Donald Trump treating me and people in our country as smart, wise people who see through his lies.
Okay.
And then my fear is, which I think is true, Donald Trump doesn't care, and it doesn't matter what I think or believe.
Yeah. And so I don't have any comments about the expansion or the way you articulated it. Do you, as you wrote it out and now as you read it out, is there any particular experience with that?
No, except to say that, I feel rage around him.
Yeah. You're doing a resentment inventory.
Right. I'm a crazy person. I'm the person who yells and swears at the television.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah.
I do that. And that's very humbling.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I have that, what I know intellectually, I have that I feel justified in it. And I know intellectually, no, it's not about justifying resentment and rage. So I need help.
Well, and in fact, you're in a process, you're up to your knees now, and maybe you're going to get thigh high here in a little bit. But a word came to me that I didn't follow through with you. So read your self-esteem again, please.
Okay. I am an honest person who lives in a good country with an honest leader. That's what I'd like.
All right, yes. But there's a word that I'd like you to explore for yourself and add to that in something about your being a citizen.
That, I deserve to have an honest leader who doesn't, how stupid does he think we are?
No, we know.
Sorry.
I don't mean to press your button, but
sorry,
because it's quite exposed. but you're.
I'm missing it. Sorry, Herb.
Well, you're not connecting. So give me the first phrase in your self-esteem, please.
I am an honest person who lives.
Wait. And a deserving citizen.
Oh, I like that. And I believe that.
Well, no, there's no question. We all do, actually. But it was a word that came to me, and I put it away, but it haunted me, and I had to bring it to you.
Thank you. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel all the more self-righteous.
Yes, 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 yes. Now, keep in mind, and I'm going to continue to warn everybody, that all of the third column will reveal stuff to you, each one of those 7 variables, but it's only half the story.
Right.
The other half will be revealed in the 4th column, and it's going to take us 4 or 5 weeks to actually see the full picture. But just so breathe. As we're doing this, yes, but it's wonderful to get the taproot down into the volcano.
It's there.
Yeah, oh yeah, we saw the lava flow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I resent my beloved for not sharing the same definition of a clean house that I do. What I have written for self-esteem is, I am a woman worthy of comfort and safety in her own home.
Okay, now, all right, I'm going to ask you a question in a minute, but go ahead with what's your fear?
Oh, my fear is that that living in a dirty home says to myself and to everyone else that I'm not worth any better.
Oh, okay. So I hope everybody heard that kind of, she really made it personal in terms of the fear. It was really, yeah, I think that's a really good insight. So then go to pride, please.
I want others to see me living in a beautiful home so that they will like me more. Because that's my belief, that my worth is somehow tied to how my house looks.
Yeah.
And I go there because it's easier than saying or admitting that I'm more comfortable and am less stressed and have less sensory overload when the house isn't cluttered, when the house is tidy. So I make it about everyone else.
Right.
How do I get honest about the fact that I want that just for me?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to make a comment about that in a minute, but so in the pride, what was the fear, please?
That I want others to see me living in a beautiful home.
Okay, it's interesting because first of all, you have a lot of insight. You have a lot of insight to it. My suspicion is, and my memory is, that you've been with us before and you've done some work in the 3rd and 4th column before, right?
Right.
Yeah. So there's a part of what your comments were that were anticipatory of the truth because you've seen it before, and that's a sort of almost a natural thing that'll develop. And so she is able to, from an organic standpoint, connect the dots in a way that is not available to anybody who hasn't completed the work before.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I just wanted to tamp down the anxiety
And
on other people, not you.
right. And the good thing about being in my place is it affords me this ability to be a little more, I'm going to use the word insightful. But the bad part about that is when I try to do this work, it ends up looking like a scatter plot on the wall, and I don't know what to pay attention to because I don't know how to put it in order without guidance from outside.
Oh, so you have the same issue with uncluttered and cluttered with regard to your column 3.
Yes.
That's what you just said. Interesting. Well, of course, that's exactly what your personality is. Now, but it is interesting because read your self-esteem. I'm going to make a comment, please.
Okay. I am a woman worthy of comfort and safety in her own home.
And your fear?
My fear is that dirty is stressful, it's sensory overload, and it says to myself and to other people that I'm not worth any better.
Yeah. So I see that as very connected to the resentment, but I didn't see the self-esteem as connected to the resentment. Read your resentment again, please.
I have a resentment against my husband for living in a dirty house.
Yeah. So read your self-esteem again.
You're right. I'm a woman worthy of comfort and safety in her own home. Got nothing to do with the resentment.
Well, it
Well,
does.
it does.
It does, but it's camouflaging that
Okay.
I have a belief that I deserve to live in a clean, orderly house. That makes me comfortable and safe.
Okay.
All right?
Say it again. I deserve to live in a comfortable.
A clean and orderly.
Oh yeah, because that would be so much better for me.
Well, because it's connected to the resentment. And the benefit of clean and orderly is that I'll be comfortable and safe. You got that, but it was on the surface. It wasn't
Right.
underneath it.
Thank you. I need a little push to get to what it really is. I can only go as far as I can only see as much as I can see.
Well, maybe, or maybe you're seeing so much that it's hard to get clear about the connections. That's my suspicion here. And that's why I made the comment concerning the perspective you've had experience with this before. So now go to the pride again, and just so that we can make sure that we're tidy and clean and orderly.
I want others to see me living in a beautiful home.
Really beautiful. That's not in your resentment.
Right, because the truth is I never let anybody come to my house.
Well, that's a different issue.
Okay, all right. Right.
Because in fact, your resentment is that he doesn't honor your need for clean and orderly. That creates a beautiful home, but that's again the byproduct. Others should see that my home is clean and orderly.
Okay.
And then what's your fear again? What did you write as your fear?
What I literally wrote is fear. Dirty is stressful, sensory overload, and it says to myself and others that I'm not worth any better.
See, in both of those fears, you were very connected to the resentment itself. In the self-esteem words and in the pride words, you were not connected to the resentment. You were connected to sort of the product that you're looking for, but not underneath it, which is in fact the belief that you have about orderly and decluttered and etc. Clean. Does that all make sense to you?
It is getting clearer. I need a little more, I need one more time or to listen to it on the tape to get clear about what's a closer to the resentment under pride.
Well, I'm thinking also that you're probably a little OCD.
Oh yeah, diagnosed.
And that you're probably pretty tightly wound.
Yes, sir.
And so my comment is embrace the set aside attitude and really breathe flexibility. This doesn't have to be tightly worded, even though what we just did was attempting to be tightly worded. So I don't mean to fall into your trap, but I did want to, for your sake and for others, to make sure that we're connecting the resentment to the analysis.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, this was wonderful.
Thank you.
That I see, even though I've done all this work throughout my life, we're always growing. There is such an awareness of the impact of what my mom instilled in me. And I know she wasn't, didn't do it consciously. But anyway,
wait. Don't cut your mother any slack.
Okay.
You do not need to defend her.
Okay.
You need to keep the focus on your feelings authentically without giving her any excuses or cutting her any slack. That's for you, but it's for everybody else.
Okay.
You're not disloyal. You're not dishonoring your mother or your father or anybody else. You're just looking at your feelings and your thoughts, which may or may not be true.
Right. All right. And this is the first time I'm doing this work like this. Okay. So When I resent mom for instilling fear, anxiety, and mistrust in life. My deep belief, I said, I am a survivor of early childhood trauma. My essence is whole and complete. My fear is that I am.
That's a bit philosophical.
Oh, okay. Well,
Can you get more real with your words?
sure. When you say deep belief, I am a survivor.
Yep.
Although I don't always feel like it, but I am a survivor. I've already survived it, and
So you're on a stage with your mother.
Mhm.
All right. And what's your belief about yourself, no matter what the age is,
Right.
that you're looking at here? And it sounds like it's a larger spectrum of age.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a chronic kind of attitude on her part. You're standing there. If you were asked, as I am asking you, who are you? What is your belief about mothers and daughters?
I believe I'm someone who was deeply, deeply mistreated.
Yeah, but it's never going to be.
No.
So how do you judge mistreated? How should you have been treated?
I wrote that in the next one. Where
All right, let's go to it then.
Okay. Well, I said, okay, others should see my mom as having treated me as being cherished, respected, loved, as being strong, healthy, and fearless.
So here's the technique. Now I want you to go to the pride thing that you just read and read it as if it was in the self-esteem area using the word I am.
I am cherished, respected, I'm loved, I am strong, I am healthy, and I am fearless.
You see how you cracked
baby.
it open? You just cracked it wide open, didn't you? Yeah. And what's your fear? Feel in your gut, what's your fear?
Yeah, well, my fear is, I wrote 2 fears, that I'm not flawed, that I'm flawed and not okay as I am, and that I'm not worthy of love.
Yeah, there you go. Bam, bam. Yeah. There it is. There it is. Now, again, I mean, wow. This is the breakthrough. This is the curtain parting that I experienced, and it's not comfortable at all. No, it's a deep hurt of a deep truth, or blowing up of a lie that we thought was the truth, and I don't think they're there yet. But
yeah, I feel more it's like the second part of what you're saying. Like I said, I've done a lot of work through the years. I'm 58 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you are chronologically. But this crying right now is of a 4-year-old or an 8-year-old that is so wounded because of that negative relationship with your mother, that suffocating relationship. And yet today, 50 years later, you're still doing it to yourself. This is what you'll experience in the 4th column. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Herb.
Wow. I really always ask, but I'm not sure it's pertinent or appropriate right now. What was your experience in writing it and now in reading it?
It's interesting because I wrote this as we started the workshop today, and what was my experience? I mean, it's writing it is, it's like it makes it real.
Yeah, but reading it made it experiential.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you didn't have this when you were writing it. You didn't have this when you were reading it. You were, see, but it's reading it out loud does something. And I think that's the benefit of a 5th step done in the sitting where you're reading consecutively out loud things that you wrote in a discrete basis over a long period of time, and you've never articulated them in a continuous out loud, and the power of it cracks us open.
And it has affected, my whole life.
Of course it has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I put in my resentments. My mother didn't help me get ready for my wedding. I'd forgotten my lipstick and a number of other things.
No, that's great. That's very specific. My mother didn't help me with my wedding, and then you enumerated a couple very specific situations. Wonderful. All right. So what's
And
your
my-
Go ahead.
Sorry, my sister-in-law was there, and
No, I don't
helped
want the story. Sorry.
Okay.
Story.
Um,
What is the self-esteem?
This is really turning it around for me, because I thought it was like completely different. But I'm a loving, kind, intelligent, and courageous woman, deserving of cherishing and respect.
All right. And your fear is?
Not deserving, being of no value, didn't care for me. I could never match up. I can't trust her. She'll always hurt me, will never be there for me. She's jealous and will only be happy if I fail. And I'm on my own always.
Wow, that's great. Wonderful. Lots of qualitatively different experiences. How old were you at that time?
I was actually 35.
Oh, no, I mean, it gives us a perspective. All right, so that's just fine. No. What did you write for Pride?
I'm not entirely sure, but I put, it's my day, not yours. You should be loving and cherishing like I am. You couldn't have kids. Why couldn't you value me and share my successes? You were the problem, not me. You
Okay.
never put
all you did. No, so sorry. It's not a helpful approach. What you did was unpack more of your feelings of resentment. That's all.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. You didn't answer the direction there is you have an audience at your wedding. You're on the stage with your mother. She's not being very helpful. You're on a stage with your mother. You're semi-dressed and you're a little flustered because you don't have some things. And your mother was, in your mind, responsible to get that together and make your day beautiful. You've got a whole audience of people now watching this clumsy relationship between you and your mother. How in the ideal world would you want the audience to see your mother treating you?
That I was of value, and it was one day she'd put me first. And I think, in fact, my sister-in-law saw this.
Don't get into the story. Keep answering my question. You're doing great in answering the question. That this is my day, that my mother recognizes I'm the center of attention. She's giving me full attention. She's being supportive. She's being loving and kind. She's scurrying on roller skates to take care of all of my needs, to make sure that I'm not flustered at all.
Yeah. And this runs through almost everything with my mum.
Of course it does. Well, let me ask this. When you were doing, because you did good work, all right? It was a little off track with regard to the Pride, but you were able to identify it as soon as I put it kind of in the context of the worksheet. You were able to identify it rather readily. What's your experience in writing it, and now what's your experience in our dialogue?
It was a very alien way for me to look at it, because I've done step fours before. And in my self-esteem, I'd be saying I'm absolute shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's a psychological inventory, and that's not what we're doing here. Yeah.
And that's what I've done. Yeah. And this helped me get in touch with what that felt like.
Yeah. No, you're very clear with regard to your beliefs and your shoulds, and you will get clearer as you do some more work.
Yeah, I need to really find the time and do it. Yeah.
No, you will never. No, that's not true. You will never find the time.
I just need to do it.
No. I mean, that's a nice slogan, but it's also unrealistic. It's kind of like just stop drinking because it's creating suffering. Yeah, that's not going to work. No, it's kind of like having a doctor's appointment. You don't just walk into a doctor's office when you have time.
Yeah.
You make an appointment probably
Yeah.
a week or 2 or 3 in advance so that you make sure that the time is allocated for you and for your doctor where you can actually get together. If you wait to do this work when you have time, you will never do the work. You will clean your sock drawer and you will clean the garage, but you won't do this work.
And it's my people pleasing that gets in the way.
That may be your issue. It wasn't mine. So each one of us will have different issues because this is not only time consuming, it's difficult in the sense of looking at some of the stuff you've heard people looking at their beliefs and having this emotion and this negativity and all of their history. It's hard work from that standpoint. It's not hard in terms of difficult to understand in the beginning, maybe a little bit, but eventually it's really just about facing our feelings here.
Yeah.
Thank
you, Herb.
Thank you. No, wonderful. Good work. Thank you so much.
It's really an institution, I think. It is about colorism in my culture. There's light browns and dark browns, and light browns are treated a certain way, and dark browns and really dark browns are treated a certain way.
Yeah.
And so I really, I think this is something that I've stuffed for a long time, and I think I can represent this I mean, there have been many incidences, but the one that I think keeps recurring in my head is when I was 8 years old, something like that, 7 or 8. I approached a girl who was a light brown, very light brown. I'm considered a very dark brown for the culture group that I came from. I went to her. I was very lonely, and I went to her and I practically begged her to be my friend. You know how little kids are, aren't they?
Yeah.
And so for me, I resent her and for being extremely arrogant and telling me to jump off the building that we were at, and then she will consider being my friend. So the self-esteem, I think, is I believe I am a kind, loving, worthy person, and that I would be the kind of friend that she would always want. She's always wanted, that I am important.
Yeah.
Is that enough of
enough? Yeah. Go to the fear. What's your fear?
I think the fear is that I'm really small, that I am unseen, and that I turn people off because of the way I look, the color of my skin. That nobody wants to be my friend.
Yeah.
That I'm not important enough or worthy enough to be anyone's friend.
Right.
So that's my fear.
Yeah. Innately unworthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. No, it's very deep. All right. So go to the pride.
Pride is I am in her light. I am completely the most wanted friend, and I'm being treated like a super fan, like she's my super fan. And
this is how you want the audience, this group of cohorts or friends, to see her treating you.
Yeah, that I'm special to her, and that I'm the one that she hugs on and clings on to, and that
you're her first choice.
Yes, that I'm her first choice, and it doesn't matter what I look like.
Yeah.
She just loves me.
Yeah. Colorblind.
Totally colorblind. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she just sees who I am.
Yes.
And she likes who I am.
Yes. And your fear is?
And the fear is she doesn't care. Nobody cares. And that I'm going to stay friendless.
Yes, yes. No right or wrong answer. That could have gone in so many different directions. That's the direction you chose. Honor it. You don't have, there's no right or wrong here. All right. All right. So as you wrote it,
What I wrote was, because of the color of my skin, I will not have any friends, so I will not
right?
be cared for.
Yeah. As you wrote it, and now as you read it, what's your experience with it?
I don't know, actually, to be honest. It's
Okay, let me be more specific then. When you wrote it out, what were your feelings?
a lot of anger, so much anger.
Yeah, because we're doing a resentment anger inventory, so that's appropriate. You're sitting in the volcanic flow, the lava, hot lava flow. Yep, that's exactly right. And now as you're reading it, what's your experience and feelings?
I can breathe a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me about that.
Well, I think I can see that, this is her problem. This was her issue. This was the cultural upbringing she had.
All right. All right. You're cutting her a little slack, which is just fine. Have you done, I think you've done this work before, third and fourth column. Is that correct?
I've done a third column, but I haven't really, to be honest with you, I haven't really completed it. I always backed away from it.
Well, good. Now, do you know why?
Because I'm afraid.
Yeah, these are hard feelings to feel, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what to do with this right now.
That's correct.
It's for the first time I'm actually acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't know what to do with it. I'm not going to tell you right now, other than you will be working with that and bringing it to conclusion. You will be bringing it to conclusion over the next 4 to 6 weeks as we get into the fourth column. And we won't wait too long, but I want to make sure people get firmly into a helpful breaking of the code of the third column before we move on into seeing the full picture.
Okay.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Thank you, Carb.
You bet.
My issue is originally with my father,
Yeah.
but I can't feel any resentment for him. So I took another example of a guy I had a relationship with, which has a similar issue.
Perfect.
Yeah?
Oh, perfect. Absolutely wonderful. That's very creative and inspired on your part. If you can't look at this picture and there's nothing there, but somehow you were invited to, then you look at a picture that has less potential prohibition to it, where you have perhaps the same dynamic. That's a brilliant insight. Thank you. Now, what did you write in terms of your resentment?
I resent for he hasn't invited me for his 60th birthday, where he had invited all old friends.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Excellent. I mean, you're right on the money there. Wonderful. So what is your self-esteem? What did you write?
I'm not worthy to him.
No, it's never going to be negative. So start again. What's your belief about yourself?
I'm not worthy.
No, wrong. I'm going to be very black and white here. It's never negative. I want to stress that. So go to pride. How do you want other people to see you in relationship with this man?
That he is treating me as if he values me, and I'm treated fair, and he cares about me, and I have a meaning.
Yes.
I have a meaning to him.
You want other people to see him treating you. That's right on the money. Now I want you to, as we've done with prior participants, I want you to use the word I am in front of those words for the pride, please.
I am valuable and worthy to be treated fair, and I'm cared about, and I have a meaning.
Yeah. See, that was a lot of work for you to get connected to that. Yeah, but see what happens when you do? The level of hurt, right? And so, again, we've shown everybody now, yourself included, obviously, the benefit of doing that backdoor technique to get to be real clear on self-esteem. As you just unpacked it, the pride opened the door for you to see your real deep belief about yourself, and you're angry, but that's because you're so hurt.
That's true.
Yeah. Did you write a fear for that one?
Yeah. To have my fear is I have no meaning, and that he was not true. He just used me, and
Right.
was not true.
Right. Yep. There's no right answer, but boy, you've hit the target from my standpoint. Yep. Now, as you wrote it out, and now as you read it out, what's your experience?
When I read it, I have more connection to my feelings.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's been a consistent experience today, and it's really impressed me at the value of reading it out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's the beginning of the work, and we'll continue next week looking at the items underneath self-esteem and pride. But I think this is a really good exercise for each person, but also everybody, to see how we can flesh out and get connected to and have an experience with both self-esteem and pride. They're flip sides of the same coin, and it's never negative in the realm of belief. All right?
Thanks a lot, Herb.
Thank you for your courage and staying pressed up against it with me here. That was great.
I have more of a question because my pride seems to be more negative.
Sure. Yeah, and that's why I stress it's never negative. I do understand that. It's some of our first reaction to it because we have such low self-esteem or a negative lens through which we look. It's a habit that we have, but it's not going to help here. But go ahead with your question, please.
Okay. All right. Well, I put my resentment is at the worship team of my church for pushing me out.
Yeah.
And so for self-esteem, I put worthy of being listened to. But when I was standing on the stage with everybody, I'm like, I want them to see that they pushed me out. So, but then what I went on to write was, I want them to see that I do fit in, that I can help them, I can harmonize, that I can support them. So I guess my question, am I on the right track there? Or?
You are. I would invite you to attempt to go a little bit deeper by not looking at them as much as looking at yourself. Okay. What is it that you see in you that you want them to see in you that they're not seeing?
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Can you answer that like on a spontaneous basis right here?
Maybe it's showing up in my fear. Well, wait.
All right, read what you wrote in fear, please.
Under the self-esteem, I wrote that I'm really not that good and my ideas are not that good. And then under pride, I put that I really am too old to fit in because they're younger.
Okay, so that doesn't help because that's all very negative. It's a legitimate fear. I'm not saying anything about the fear response that you put. I think it's legitimate, but it's not going to help you on the left-hand side because it's so negative. I want you right here, right now, to look at me and tell me what you actually believe are the benefits in you that you want them to see.
Okay. That I can help them if they listen to me.
All right, so you're again focused on them rather than what you see in you that they should see. What's in you that you want them to see in terms of the beauty, the capability, the virtuosousness, the goodness, the innate heart space. I mean, I'm giving you words, and I don't want to do that. But I'm trying to prime the pump.
Right. I appreciate it because, yeah, I'm having a really hard time. I guess when you like capable, I am capable. I don't know.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You do. No, you're embarrassed because you don't want to say what you're feeling, thinking. Because part of you doesn't believe it, but down inside, underneath all of that negativity, there is a light of hope and of expectation and of some yearning for you to be seen in this way. What is that?
All right. I am capable.
Yeah, use the word I am. That's good. Yeah, and just throw it out. Don't filter it.
I am capable. I am worthy of being listened to, but that comes back to the self-esteem.
No. Don't even be concerned about connections. I'm just saying, do this. This is not therapy, although it's very therapeutic.
Yeah, I get you. That's all I have.
All right. So my invitation to you is, in the spirit of the set aside, is for you to sit quietly and breathe deeply and put on the top of a piece of paper. Be positive and answer, fill in the blanks. I am.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. As if you're looking in a mirror and the mirror is reflecting the virtues and the values. Use those two words, my virtues and my values.
Okay.
About me, not about them. About me. Who am I? All right, try that.
Okay.
Yeah, try that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, see, habits of a lifetime are very difficult to break through. And my suspicion is that this is a habit of a lifetime in terms of negativity.
Yep, sure is.
Yeah. Thanks so much. This was a wonderful, hopefully it was helpful to you, but I know it was helpful to many people. Thank you.
So this is a resentment against my mother that I've dealt with for years. So, and how I feel when I write it out is, I don't know if it's a resentment I need to continue to work on, is what it's coming to me, but you can help me with that. So
what is the resentment?
That she physically and emotionally abused my sister and I.
All right.
So the self-esteem I have.
Before we get there, just give me a little bit of detail on it, not the whole story, but a little bit of detail. In terms of your consciousness, what was the age and or the time period?
My entire life with her.
Childhood and adulthood.
Childhood, adolescence, continued into adult.
There you go. So this is a total, yeah, okay, I got it
I
now.
follow.
So now read the resentment again, please.
My mother physically and emotionally abused my sister and I.
All right. And who are you? I am.
I am a precious, innocent child that deserves guidance, caring, love, and a safe environment.
All right. And your fear is?
My fear is that I'll be harmed in some way by not being protected. And the behavior will impact my life.
Yeah, I not only was harmed, because you said I'll be. So
Right.
the fear is I was harmed and it's irreparable.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's
You said it'll impact the rest of my life. It is I've been permanently damaged.
right.
All right. I'm just exploring a little bit.
Yep.
So, yep, very healthy. And now go to the next one, pride, please.
That others should see her protecting, guiding, and loving her precious daughters and not inflicting physical or psychological harm on them and placing them in a protective environment.
Exactly. And your fear is?
That harm will come to us because of her behavior.
That harm has come to us and
Okay.
it's irreparable.
Yeah.
Don't be speculative about it. Just, we're looking at real, actual fear, not a speculation about it. The reality is, as you look back now over your shoulder over decades, the fear, as I'm interpreting it, is that I was and am permanently damaged, and it's impacted in a very negative way my entire life.
Yes.
Yeah. See, it's still alive for you.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. And that's really the point.
Mm.
And so your original question, oh, I've dealt with this and I don't even know whether it's, is it real, do you think?
Oh, it's real, and it never seems to go away completely.
Exactly. And I'll introduce, not next week, but the first week we all get back together, the three groups.
Okay.
The prayer for the removal of deep resentment. Meanwhile, you could look at that work. You've probably been exposed to it before, pages 66 and 67, as well as the prayer that I've scripted from that. The version of it in the 2020 Way of Life document might be helpful.
Thank you.
All right. No, thank you. I hope you continue bringing us into the process that you're going to apply to this particular one. It's so important and it's so relevant to most everybody, either mother or father. And it's going to be a process where I believe you're going to get a little traction in releasing it or being released from it, both. You're releasing it as well as being released from it. And I would love everybody to participate in the way you're going to experience that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much.
This one is about my ex-husband.
Yes.
My resentment is him leaving me in the hospital.
Yes.
And my self-esteem was, what's my deep belief? I am a wife treasured above all else, that I am worth being doted upon and being cared for when I'm incapacitated, that I'm worthy of a partner that gives me the same level of love and dedication that I give to him.
Yeah, that's a nice full unpacking of it. Excellent. And what's your fear when you think and believe that?
I was having some trouble with the fear part because I thought my fear was going to be the same between my self-esteem and my pride, but I don't think it is now that I'm looking at it.
Right.
So my fear for the self-esteem was that I will never be loved as I love others. That if I can't take care of myself for physical or mental reasons, nobody else will take up the slack.
Yeah.
I can't trust anyone, not even my lifelong partner.
Those are three different fears, but they're very poignant in I'm just pointing it out. They're not all the same, but that's wonderful. And we're going to do, after we finish resentments, we're going to do a fear inventory, and this will be grist for the mill for that work there. So that's wonderful. And pride?
So the way that I saw others, or I pictured it on the stage, and so him treating me as the most important thing in his life, taking care of every detail and anticipating my every need during my first severe episode of illness.
Yeah.
That I have meaning and am valued above all else by him.
Yeah. And your fear?
That I have no meaning, that I am unlovable and will always be abandoned. Yeah.
And again, that might be more than just one fear in that, but you'll look at that see, there's no, I'm not encouraging anybody to try to unpack the fears. When we get to the fear inventory, then I'll have a whole set of instructions for you. But at this point, you're just naming it. And be generous like that. I mean, she had like 3 different fears, and she had like in each one of them, and she had a rich description of self-esteem and pride. I mean, it was more amplified. I'm not encouraging you to use a lot of words, but I am looking for stretching it, stepping outside of the civilized guardrails, even rational. All right. Just kind of like stretch. And I think somebody used the word, be real crazy about it. In a stretch, and then you can take a look at it. Was it much of a stretch at all? When I did that stretch, which I thought was a stretch, I'm the king and everybody's my subject. I said that was a stretch. And then when I actually said it, wrote it, looked at it, it was kind of like, yeah, no, that's really what I want. And it was like embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was my experience with this, was that I really was trying to stretch it. I'm above all else and I'm all this. And I was like, no, I actually do believe that I should be.
There. See, and the word should captures it. As soon as you use that word, I know that you've penetrated the truth for yourself. Yeah.
Okay, so this one that I have in front of me is that my mom, so she had OCD. So after I was out of the house, she would literally call me 100 or more times a day. Like I became her object of obsession. And these were the days before like all these telecommunication services where you could see who was calling or anything. I mean, I was like a young woman.
Sure.
And my phone was always ringing. I didn't know, I would have answered for a friend. I did not want to answer for my mom. It really terrorized me, in a real way.
Right.
So I basically did what you talked about, doing the pride thing and then backing into self-esteem. So I can do that, or I can read my self-esteem.
So self-esteem first.
Okay. I said self-esteem. I am someone who gets my needs met. And then my fear is I am someone who can't get what I want and need. So my pride was my mom, others should see my mom listening to me, reflecting what I said, and respecting my wishes for myself.
Yes.
And then my fear is pretty much what happened. She said, no, I can't. No, no empathy of what that does to me.
Yes.
So, so basically I get pretty stirred up by this. I'm only doing it in the morning or like before 3 o'clock, because sometimes I can be like worried at bedtime, but,
yes. No, see, that's very practical though. That's very practical application. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because number one, it's exhausting work. And number two, it does stir you up sometimes. So you have to do it when like you make a judgment about, so that you can not upset your sleep or yourself in a way, like before you go to work or whatever else it is you're doing. That's great. Good.
Yeah. So I did do it, through 7.
Yeah, yeah. Well, keep in mind now, this is only, first of all, a part of the worksheet. And then the fourth column will be the balance of the work so that you'll see the full picture of it. So
Yeah.
at this point, you're very clear on doing the work. I would suggest now that you move on to other resentments. And
Yeah.
you've done enough on your mother. Now I'm
Yeah.
suggesting that you move on to other people.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Will do.
All right.
Okay. Gladly almost. Okay.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks.
Believe it or not, just the act of writing on paper is always an issue for me.
Is what?
Is an issue. It's just that.
What does that mean?
Because when I was younger, I was kind of betrayed by my mother. She wound up reading my diary, and
yeah. Well, that's a point that I want to thank you for raising it. If you live with somebody, anybody, and you're writing this inventory, you need to protect it because it doesn't matter. Let me just say this as bluntly as I can. It doesn't matter who they are, if they're in a program or not. If you're doing this and they know that you've written something in a diary, they will find it. It won't be an accident. They'll be looking for it. And so protect yourself. It doesn't matter who they are, what they say, or what you think their integrity is. Unfortunately, people are very human, and most of the people are very curious. You need to protect your material if, in fact, you're concerned about other people finding it and or reading it.
Yeah. So anytime I have to write anything down,
yeah,
I'm always hesitant. I'm always nervous about it because I was betrayed by that way.
Yeah. But it sounds like you're dealing with it.
I definitely did.
That's to set aside. I need to set aside this prior trauma that gives me an excuse. All right, because it's not real. It's just not real.
Yeah.
All right. So we don't let our feelings drive our behavior. If in fact we really want to be adults and get something done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this, the first one is about my father, and there are other things too. As a matter of fact, while I was doing this one, something else came up, and I was,
of course,
that was even bigger than this one, So, okay, so I resent my father for hitting me when doing my homework together, for not having the right answers.
Yep.
The self-esteem is I am smart and can voice my thoughts, ideas, and opinions and be helpful to others. And my fear was people will think I'm stupid, that I will never be anything other than mediocre, that I will never measure up to my sister.
Yeah. All right.
And the pride was that my father is treating me as he loves me unconditionally, accepting me as I am, that I am enough, that I am smart and capable, that he wanted me as much as my mother did.
Yeah.
The fear is people will see my father doesn't love and care about me, that he never really wanted me.
Yeah. So what you did there also, I want to just point it out in case you didn't see it, is you amplified your self-esteem. You see how rich that pride description was. So read it that way. I am. Read your pride with the preface I am, and then read all those words.
So my pride is that I am loved and cared for by my father, that he did want me. Yeah.
There were more words there.
As far as that my father, I see. That my father does love me unconditionally. That he is accepting me as I am. That I am enough. That I am smart and capable, and that he has wanted me as much as mother has.
Yeah, yeah. So as you wrote it out, and now as you read it out, just with a little bit of innovation, what's your experience with that?
Well, that just as I'm a parent today, you know, he was working with what he had to work with.
You don't need to cut him any slack. You do not need to cut him any slack. This is about you and your perceptions, not about him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. You did a really good and clear job there. Yeah. All right. Thanks very much.
So yeah, resentful of my dad for being largely absent when I was growing up, drinking in bars most nights. Self-esteem. I'm a beautiful, loving, lovable person who is worthy of absolute devotion and care from my dad. My fear, alcohol was more important to my dad than me. He loved alcohol more than me. His neglect has negatively impacted my life and me as a person and a man. Pride. Others should see my dad treating me as his most favourite person in the world. So proud and loving whenever he is with me, wanting to spend all his time with me, speaking proudly about me to everyone. And my fear, my dad found me a pain, getting in the way of him drinking and having fun with his friends, and others could see that too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're very clear on it as you wrote it, and now as you read it out loud. What's your experience with that?
I feel quite emotional because...
Yeah, right, of course. Appropriately so. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it probably is heavier because my dad has terminal cancer, so it's probably more affecting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, I think it. Yeah, I think because I've written out the other parts as well, but I think it kind of brings up for me. I guess sometimes I write these things, it's like other resentments pop out. You know, so it brings up. Yeah. So the sort of dynamic between how my father parented me and how my mother did it, because my mother dominated me and my dad was in the pub.
Yeah.
So it's quite. I mean, I've never done a third column like this. This is deep.
Yeah. Well, see, you've taken a bulldozer and you've removed 9 feet of concrete.
Yeah.
And when you remove it, not only the skeletons of your father, but all of the other skeletons that are buried there are going to emerge.
Yeah. It's a powerful image.
Well, it's, but the thing is, you see, whether you remove the concrete or not, the skeletons are there, and like crabgrass, they work their way through the concrete so that they're impacting our current lives, and we don't know why we're reacting in a negative way that we're reacting, and it's all because of the stuff that's buried underneath our unconscious. And as I said before in my introduction a couple of weeks ago, this stuff, this worksheet, it penetrates the unconscious, and now you're surfacing it. Everybody that shares has talked about, as I'm doing this things, other things are bubbling up. Yeah, absolutely. That means that you're doing it in a very effective and healthy way.
Yeah, thank you.
And it doesn't feel good, as you just said. It's quite upsetting. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That's why we come at it in prayer, and also with sponsorship, and also with the step guide, with perhaps a group that you form, a little cohort of onesies or twosies or threesies or foursies, whatever it is, so that in between that you can support one another in a small community.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm lucky to be in a little step guide group, which has been a great help.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
I tell you what's had a massive impact is the self-esteem column, because it's sort of interesting. It's never been introduced to me to write it in that way. So actually, because what it's really about is actually I do value myself. I realized, and that's why these things hurt. 'Cause it's like, hey mofo, can you see me? Do you know what I mean? And that.
I love it. Can you see me?
Yeah.
As I want to be seen.
Hmm.
That's it. As I should be seen. Those are the phrases. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you see me?
Yeah.
And then as I elevated that, some parts of it I said, oh, that's very unhealthy, Herb. For myself. Now you're having a healthy experience with it in the sense of you're seeing a very positive thing. I had a very healthy experience in that I saw a delusional self, So everybody's going to have their own experience with it. Wonderful. Yeah.
And it's been really life-changing for lots of reasons. And it was an illusion.
Yeah.
It was an illusion that I had no place in his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just another lie. And
Yeah.
you see what you're experiencing is what I confirm as my experience is column 3 about my beliefs, is about my shoulds, is about my lie. Column 3 generally reveals to me the lie that I've accepted about reality as the truth. And seeing the lie begins to allow me then to see the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's amazing. It's amazing to go into I have to say, I can feel a little bit unwell just before doing this stuff, actually, because it's quite deep and digging, isn't it? But
yes, that's why we go into it in prayer. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is wonderful. And what I'm discovering, it's only since yesterday, is that I will avoid difficult. I will either overgive or withdraw, rather than address real, meaningful communication with a person. I will avoid that piece. But since yesterday, I've stopped avoiding it. So now I feel like I'm daring to be more real. Yeah.
Well, put on your shoulder straps. That's right. No, you're entering into a whole new world of reality, and it can be quite challenging sometimes. So wonderful. No, but I hear your relief and your enthusiasm.
I'm thinking about what you just said in that the lie is revealed in column 3. So when I was looking at one of my worksheets this morning, and what seems to be a theme for me is that I can't handle it. I emotionally can't handle it. The worksheet that I was looking at was actually one of my business partners, and I get very resentful at him because he undermines my HR decisions, and my fear is that staff will leave and that it will make my job harder.
Yeah.
I have to find more staff. I'll have to do a lot of it myself, and and I think what's showing up is emotionally, I believe I can't handle this. My need is trying to protect my emotional security and my sanity.
Yes.
And that's where I'm butting heads with him.
Yes.
So maybe the lie is that I can't handle it, because I obviously have handled it. I'm 42 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but see, what you're doing is very healthy. I hear a lot of reflection. And the way you even phrased it says, perhaps. You used that term, perhaps. it's a lie. So you're not coming at it with judgment. You're coming at it with discernment. You're saying, so explore it. All right. Be open to it. This is great. Don't, and I was very conscious of being reluctant to say what I did so directly that column 3 reveals the lie, because then people will begin to prejudge it. Don't do that. Do what you're doing. Open yourself up and ask, so what's the truth here? Is this a truth? And the key word that is the unlocking the door is should.
Should.
You know? Yeah. How should I be? What should the reality be? How should my partner be? So
Right. I think he should be considerate of my needs.
Yeah.
But maybe my needs are a bit out of balance.
Or
And
maybe your expectation is unrealistic.
Right.
Because he has never demonstrated that he's reliable.
Right.
And so don't expect him to be reliable if that's
Right.
not who he is.
Self-esteem. I am kind, thoughtful, considerate of others, want happiness and peace for others. I am smart and I know what is right.
And your fear is?
My fear is that people will leave, will lose staff, and it will make my life and my job harder.
Yeah, no, you're right on the money. Now, how about pride?
Pride was that others should see him as treating me as in charge, with power, making good decisions, having a voice, making good decisions for others.
Yeah.
And then my fear is that I'm undermined.
Yeah.
And I'll be overwhelmed and unhappy.
Yeah. You're very clear. I'm confirming. All right.
Okay.
You've apparently you've broken the code. You've unpacked it. Keep in mind, we're going to do some more work next week concerning the balance of the worksheet. I'm glad we're doing it slowly so that people can relate to it. You're welcome to do the balance of the worksheet now, reading the definitions on each of the 7 variables, each of the additional 5 variables, and then doing the analytical work on the left and the feeling work on the right, and then we'll unpack it next week. All right?
Okay. Thanks, Herb.
So this is about my husband. His name is Frank. When I resent Frank for not voluntarily engaging with our grandchildren when we are visiting them.
All right.
And self-esteem, I am helpful, kind, and loving to all, especially my family members and grandchildren.
Right.
My fear is that I will be viewed, questioned regarding who I am because my husband does not act in the same way or acts in the opposite way.
All right. Yeah.
My pride is that others should see Frank treating me as a partner in our love and attention toward our grandchildren.
Yes.
And my fear is others will see Frank treating our grandchildren and or me in a mean, harsh, or dismissive way.
Yeah. So it's clear, and as you wrote it out, and now as you read it out, what's your experience with it?
Well, I'm surprised and humbled by how nervous I feel, kind of emotional, and I feel like I'm betraying Frank by sharing this.
All right.
And it, yeah, and as I say, I realize that this is one of my core issues is how looking good and equating how my husband behaves with, I mean, we've been married 41 years. I love him dearly, but that I will be judged based on
Yeah.
my partner.
Yeah.
And that's really humbling, and yet I've come so far in terms of the last time I did this work, I had so many more resentments towards Frank, and I'm moving more into compassion. It's hard to talk about, and I don't usually have difficulty talking about issues that are my issues.
Yeah. And you started out by saying it's an Al-Anon-oriented kind of evaluation, and it's apparent to you, I'm assuming, that Frank is a reflection of you.
Right. And
you're
yet,
attached to that.
Yeah,
and
right.
That's the lie.
Exactly. And intellectually, I know that not to be true. I get it, that, and you know, I've had enough Al-Anon and enough counseling and all of that his relationship with our grandchildren is his relationship with our grandchildren.
Yeah.
And it's not about me.
And people's perception of him is about him and not about you. Yeah. And yet it's very human, and it's probably very Al-Anon. As you just said, I need to look good, so everybody that's connected to me needs to look good because they're an extension of me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's ego. I get it. Very ego, you know.
We don't need to judge it. We need to observe it and say, okay, is this healthy? And is this what I want? No, it's not healthy. No, it's not what I want. And it's kind of like, okay, I'm observing the truth. I'm not judging it. I'm evaluating and saying, okay, this is unhealthy perception and an unhealthy connection. I see it with my head, but it doesn't change anything in the way I feel. And so now we're trying to get underneath it, and you will as you do the balance of the third column and then go over to the fourth column, because the fourth column is all, it answers 5 questions about your self-centeredness. Because that's what that is all about, isn't it? So yes. The third column's about the lie, and the fourth column's about the truth. And the truth will set you free. And as your dad would say, first it will piss you off.
Yeah. No, as my dad would say, that really frosts my ass. That's what right. My dad used to say.
Right. That's right. That's right. Yep. All right. Wonderful work today. I'm glad we did it the way we did it. And thank you for your participation. Thank you. Please join me in the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.